What's up, everybody? It's week 6, day 36. We're almost there, right? But 2 days from now is really the heart of our journey. It's the day of Jesus' crucifixion, Friday. It's the worst and darkest day in human history, as a matter of fact. Can you say suffering? Yeah, that day represents the worst suffering any human being can experience. Let me give you an example. When they start the crucifixion process of Jesus, they will scourge him, which means that they will take a whip that they will make out of leather and bones and metal, and every time they strike him, they will pull huge strips of skin from his skeleton. Can you say suffering? And you know about being spiked to the cross, suffering. This is all about suffering. Let's look at the text. Luke chapter 22, verses 41 through 44. Jesus walked away about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet, I want your will to be done, not mine." Then an angel from heaven appeared and strengthened him. There's the reading. 3 quick insights. The first thing Jesus teaches us here in the Garden of Gethsemane as he contemplates the suffering that awaits him in literally hours is that it is perfectly okay to ask God to take this cup of suffering away, to not allow my test results to come back badly, to not allow this relationship to end in divorce, to not allow my loved one to die. And from time to time, we will experience God's miracles. You see, God in Jesus showed up, and throughout all the Gospels, we saw God work all kinds of miracles. And yet, we find Jesus here in the Garden of Gethsemane. He's asking. Second, the context is that Jesus stays in the garden and prays all night. And all he gets back from the Father is silence, and he translates that silence into an answer. And the answer from the Father is no. That's the second insight. That sometimes we're going to ask God to remove the cup of suffering, and the answer is going to be a resounding no. And notice what Jesus says then. He says, when he gets that word, he ultimately says, "Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." And at some point in our struggle, we have to be able to discern when our prayer for God to do something needs to shift from do something to God, give us the strength to go through it. Since you won't do it, let us go through it. Strengthen us. And Jesus models this for us. And at the end of the day, we believe, even though we don't understand, that somehow it's all tied to his purpose. And then lastly, Jesus shows up in the Garden of Gethsemane. One of the reasons is to remind us that in our suffering, God never abandons us. He never allows us to be alone. He's there. I like what the angel does. The angel comes, and the text says he strengthens Jesus. It is almost as though he gives Jesus an infusion of strength, or perhaps a strength transfusion. And that is what God does for us when we have to go through horrendous moments of suffering. He says, "I'm with you. And if you allow me, I'll give you the strength you need to go through." Here's the final point. Our faith in Jesus does not mean that suffering in this broken world will be eliminated from our lives. It solely means that the guarantee is that suffering will not have the last word. He will. God grant us the strength to trust you in our moments of suffering, knowing that at the end of it all, you'll have the last word. Amen.